continued from Night Lords and Chaos Spawn. So, Amanthus Enveros is now the lord of our band, a cunning warrior, despite how he may present. He has outfoxed any who have attempted to topple him, dealt with the many who have stood in his way, like Savor Cravor, the one who recently became a lump of gibbering teeth and tentacles. But that happens when one flies too close to the attention of the dark gods. The fool. Thus Enveros now rules our warband. And I, Salan Balakor, I am his right hand, his clawed gauntlet. Perhaps one day I will take his position from him, but today is not that day. More to put it, tonight is not the night. And it serves my purposes to bend the knee for the time being. I stoop in the hopes to conquer. He isn't who I envision serving for long, but needs must when a crusade is in the offing. And offing being the operable word, many heads will roll, on their side, on ours, and nature abhors a vacuum. So perhaps I will not have to make room at the top. Perhaps serendipity will caress my life strand with her bountiful touch, and by merely following the path she sets me, I will be enthroned. Of course, should she open a doorway, I shall walk through. Watch yourself, Enveros, is all I can say. But he knows much, is powerful at the present, so I serve. He hopes to enshrine his rule with a swift victory, an audacious move, taking us firmly from the path previously set down by his predecessor Cravor, the now accursed, away from the hocus-pocus and bowing and supplication of overt service to the dark gods. It was never popular, but Cravor was a force to be reckoned with, so many abided his decision, knowing that the head count, the hunting, would be superlative. But Enveros is different. He walks the path of the Night Lord, the path of our father, Kurz. He will make the stars themselves weep with the butchery and terror he will unleash. But he has his head firmly in the game, not on eternity. Thus it is that we are asked to take to the airs, to hide amidst the clouds and await his calling, ready to come down like lightning. My men will not follow him, or would not if it were not for me. They follow me, for I am the Lord of bloody wing and glistening beak. I am the Lord of red talon and action sleek. I am Saran Balakor, Lord of Raptors. We power through the skies like a murder of crows, silent despite the burning embers blurted out by our jump packs. Once war gear to be taken on and off, now, after all of these years, millennia of being donned, they are now part of us. I am one with my wings of fire and fear, and I fly through the skies like it were my natural habitat. Our eyes, all of us, are honed to the razor's edge. No falcon or hawk could spot that which I cannot. Our darkened pupils widen, and we see all, hear all, witness all. The to and fro of the battle, the maneuvers and plays. Like a game of chess, the insects below us move from place to place, jockeying for position, they counter and feint. But all is progressing as Enveros has outlined, as he has predicted. He plays them like a fiddle, and has the bull of the Imperial Guard charge at whatever he throws up, merely for us to dissolve back into the night again. Confusion, panic, frustration. He definitely has his talents. The moonlight is eaten by our armor. Bouncing off the clouds and up at us, we should be lit like a carnival. But instead, our dark armor devours the light. So we appear as dark specks, like distant darkling stars, black holes as many would call them. None below note our presence. 70 of us float thus, enough to take a world alone given the time. But here, We shall be given the best of all treats. A pageant of pain unfolds beneath us, but like voyeurs, we look on in anticipation. As connoisseurs, we wait for the tastiest treats, the sweetest meats. And we know exactly when the lobster's shell will be cracked, and the luscious flesh will be open to our maws. A day ago at this time I witnessed it. Enveros, sitting on his makeshift throne, lording it over all. I was summoned with all of my men, my many various forces. Men perhaps is not the operative word anymore. It has not been for quite some time. So much so that many of my company have fallen or evolved, depending on your perspective. Of us, 20 have changed, have become more and less. They have walked the paths of the Raptor cult and have transformed into beings of the warp, its very talons. The hatred of the night clothed in form and given rapacious appetites to dwarf even those of us Raptors. Now more like bloodhounds that track their quarries unto the ends of the earth and beyond, they were mustered in my tail behind my many Raptors as we strutted into his audience chamber, barging the lesser worms of his court out of the way. The landlocked, the flightless, and they are less than nothing. Audience indeed. I look forward to the day I can adorn his head atop a very long stake, but I digress. Strangely, he so very much looked the part, a master of night lords, a prince of fear. He only spoils the illusion when he opens his mouth. But despite how he may speak, what he says is coherent, cogent, and clear. He gave us our parameters, our priorities in the coming battle. Well, to me and my Raptors through me, and then strode to the back of my packs and addressed the warp Talons. They looked on without outward sign of listening, stooped and scratching the ground as they did, like animals, like beasts, but so much more. Thus it was that he took a glove from his armor and dropped it in front of them. He actually giggled as they surrounded it and sniffed at it, again, like hounds or hunting beasts. They took in the essence of the owner of the garment, and said owner's fate was sealed. A well-crafted and hand-stitched gauntlet of the finest materials. A leader of some sort for certain. As the warped talons jostled to gain the scent, some few looked to me. I nodded my approval of the task, and just like that, it was begun. They tore rents into the fabric of reality and stepped through. When the last had vanished into the warp, Enveros turned, and without so much as a nod, he processed back to his throne. It seemed I had been dismissed. So off we went, to prepare. And so we returned to the events of tonight, as I feel my brothers of the cult return to reality beneath me. They step sideways from the warp through the same clawed rents by which they departed. They have been hunting their target via its imprint, following it via the warp, but now, obviously, they have made contact. My eyes see that which others could not. We all see. We look down on the main line of our enemy, our playthings of the moment, and it happens. Rents in open air explode in gouts of flame and screams of horror as they appeared in the center of the most heavily guarded area of the line, but only a few hundred yards behind the front. This general or officer is gutsy. Or was. He is now dead, I assure you. As we see the 40 warped talons run amok amidst their headquarters, there will be no survivors. As the head of the army is torn off, its brain ripped open and dined upon, pandemonium ensues, and my time is ripe. We all wail like banshees as we drop out of the skies, as we dive to our destiny. Our altered armor amplifying the screeches and sending them through the enemy's vox channels. All can hear our cry of challenge. All feel the fear of the night strike their souls and evaporate their courage. With their leaders dead, their communications cluttered, and death falling from above, all of the little ants give up any pretense of valor and flee hither and thither. We take our pick, we choose our targets. We descend on them like a storm, and rend and tear and decapitate, sever, maul and maim. Chainswords for close work, grenades and bolter shots while we descend. We dive down and kill, then up again, then down again. The feeding frenzy is intense, as the environment is so target-rich. I spot a commissar attempting to regain order, so I keep his head as a totem to terrify his underlings, as I drop down and best him with ease. The brightest humanity can give is simply not good enough. His strikes and blocks are telegraphed so much I feel like I'm fighting a man enveloped in a pool of water, like he were at the bottom of the sea. He is so human, so slow. I tire of the imagery within a heartbeat, and then end his, as I decapitate him with an almost lackadaisical swing. All across the field I can see my brothers rend and tear as I. Our talons are red, our beaks wet, our wings dipped in a river of blood that we have shed this night. And it is then that I see the entourage of our leader, Amanthus Enveros, as they spear their way towards the command center. He wants something, desperately. I consider beating him there and taking all before him, but it is not yet time. The crusade is coming. Let his be the head on the block, the one who reports to the one who called it. I shall bide my time. For I am one with the moonlit night. I am its hatred of the worshippers of the light. I am Saran Balakor. And one day all will quail at the mere mention of my name. Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and units of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. Alas, I realize this is War Gear Wednesday, but I wish to do this entry today. I must go where the muse takes me sometimes. I hope the continuing narrative we are creating is both educational and enjoyable. I shall endeavour to make some narrative compilations before we kick off the campaign at Abundance Tertius properly. But today, we are to look at some of the most evil of the beings that stalk the grim darkness of the future. For today, we are to discuss the Raptors and warp talons of the traitor Astartes, those space marines who have fallen to the worship of the corrupting powers of the dark gods of chaos. So, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Raptors. The cruel terror troops known as Raptors considered themselves the elite of the Chaos Space Marine warbands. Their murder squads epitomize what has become of the assault marines of the traitor legions. Though they were once rare and highly valued Imperial troops, the Raptors have fallen to their own pride and lust for violence. They now roam the galaxy as merciless hunters, relishing the fear they cause as they plummet screaming out of the skies. Within the Space Marine legions of old, jump-pack troops were relatively rare. Horus knew well the value of the surprise attack, and such was his military genius that the arrival of his assault marines was the turning point in dozens of critical battles. They would be held in reserve until the enemy exposed a weakness in its battle line, whereupon entire jump-pack companies would plunge into the fray, breaking the foe's defences wide open with melter gun, flamer, bolt pistol, and chainsword. Perhaps it was their habit of preying on lesser warriors that led to the slow corruption of the assault companies that sided with Horus. Over time, those of their number who ventured into the Eye of Terror grew to love the exhilaration of soaring through the skies a little too much. They became addicted to the thrill of looking down upon the warriors beneath them, and as the rudimentary machine spirits of their jump packs also became corrupted, they melded with their war gear until the power of true flight became theirs. Now there are Raptors whose blood is high-octane fuel that runs through body and war gear alike, whose eyesight is so sharp they can pick out prey from several miles distant, or who can strike from above with the force of a meteor. The chaos-tainted armor of a raptor reflects his predatory nature, usually mimicking the appearance of a vicious bird of prey or swooping demon. Altered voxcasters protrude from helmets and plate, amplifying the raw hatred of their war cries and better enabling their warriors to terrify their enemies into submission before the final strike. The Raptor's predilection for sadism and psychological warfare is a dark reflection of the submarine's traditional role. Simply killing is no longer enough. The Raptors want not only to tear apart their prey, but to instill terror in them beforehand. They will go to great lengths to see their groveling prey's face distorted with fear before the final blow is struck. Wherever the Raptors prowl, ghostly voices and horrific threats are broadcast into enemy comms networks. The skies are haunted by demonic faces, and evil shrieks echo through the night, so that their sleep-deprived quarry is driven to the edge of madness. Needless to say, the Night Lords, a legion infamous for their terror tactics, attract a great many Raptors to their banner. Raptors are seen as preening, self-indulgent egotists by many of their brethren, but their unquestionable skill in battle means that champions of chaos will gladly enlist them nonetheless. There is no battle line or garrison that cannot be demoralized and subsequently shattered by a pack of Raptors. Only once the prey is at its most vulnerable will the Raptors take their grisly prize. The thrill of false flight afforded by a jump pack can be addictive, especially to a Chaos Space Marine. Those who have delusions of godhood relish looking down on their prey as if they were little more than insects. As with all things that feel the caress of the warp, like attracts like, and the Raptors of the traitor legions only truly respect those who can lead from above. There exist among the armies of chaos those war hosts that attack from on high without exception, a dark mirror of the Adeptus Astartes tactic of launching a planned strike from low orbit to ensure the maximum impact. Those Chaos Lords who go to war upon a jump pack's twin pillars of flame are often attended by large warbands of Raptors and warp Talons. The most influential of these leaders marshal as many airborne demon engines to their cause as they can, using Helldrake Fear Squadrons to eliminate the enemy's anti-air capabilities before the main strike descends. The Night Lords in particular make extensive use of such forces, for they revel in the terror caused by what their victims perceive as a dark flock of vengeful furies from myth come to rend their flesh and claim their souls. Warp Talons. When a pack of warp Talons emerges from the warp, it appears to those on the battlefield below as if demonic warriors have burst out from nothingness into fiery, vengeful life. Like the stuff of nightmare, they plummet downwards in an explosion of warp fire, tearing into the foe with murderous intent. Warp Talon packs are comprised of tightly knit groups of horribly altered Chaos Space Marines who possess the ability to slice open the barriers between dimensions. Like their brothers in arms, the Raptors, they were once part of the Legiones Astartes assault companies, though they have followed the path of the Predator for so long that they live for nothing more than cutting, slashing, and carving apart. This single-minded fixation with the act of severance has been wrought into the very substance of their bodies. In place of its hands and feet, each warp Talon has a set of crackling swords with supernatural sharp blades that can temporarily cut through the substance of reality itself. Having fallen even further from their mortal origins than their Raptor allies, the Warp Talons have long since lost the means to speak, reason, or create. The violence they wreak is eloquent enough. A pack of Warp Talons is not employed so much as set loose. For champions of chaos know that these skyborn assassins respect only the hunt, and the kill at hunt's end. Instead, the Warp Talons are given something important to their prey, such as a hank of hair, a loved one's finger bone, or a piece of cloth from a favorite item of clothing. It is then that the hunt begins in earnest. Soaring into the skies on plumes of demonic fire, the Warp Talons depart, already moving as one in their single-minded pursuit. They will not be seen again until their prey is located and battle is joined. When the din of war resounds through the air, the Warp Talons are attracted to the ephemeral echoes of anger and pain that reverberate through the warp. These ripples in the ether are often refracted within the immaterium, where hunting packs of warp talons single out the psychic signature of their prey using senses that a mortal could not comprehend. Once the warp talons have closed in upon the emotional reflection of their victim's psyche, they will slice their spirit-sharp talons through the air above the quarry's location, cutting deep wounds into the veil between worlds with their energized claws. In this way, they force their way from the swirling anarchy of the warp straight into the material dimension. Though the lesion they slice into the fabric of real space seals as soon as the hunting pack has passed through, the mind-shattering nature of their attack is usually enough to stun their prey into inactivity. When the warp talons appear in reality, they do so in an explosion of empiric flame, a flare of energy that is all colours and none at the same time, and accompanied by a cacophony of hellish cries that blasts all reason and thoughts of order from the mind. This moment of awestruck hesitation is often fatal, for as the warp talons hurtle into the ranks of the foe, their hellishly sharp claws part heads from necks and limbs from torsos. The fickle aegis of the warp. Much like the demonic entities made from the essences of the ruinous powers, those wholly claimed by chaos have a kind of esoteric protection that can shield them from physical blows. A Chaos Space Marine who has sworn his soul to one of the Dark Gods may find an incoming bolt transmuted into scarlet liquid at the last moment, or see a volley of incoming bullets hit home as a shower of writhing grubs. A las cannon beam, potent enough to punch through the hull of a tank, might simply pass through a warp-claimed champion as if he was no more substantial than a phantasm. Similarly, a plasma bolt might be caught in an outstretched gauntlet, twisted into a ball of fire, and then consumed by the target without harm. Truly, it is said that the favourite of the ruinous powers are part demon, for they are supernatural terrors to a man. However, it is just as likely that the empiric force that protects them from the vagaries of fate will do precisely nothing at a critical moment, especially if the recipient has come to take them for granted. In such contradictions do the Chaos Gods find humour and justice alike. End quote. The Raptors and the Warp Talons. More than any other units in the Chaos armies, except perhaps brutes that are a mockery of the dreadnoughts of the Imperium, I find the Raptors and Warp Talons to be some of the most disconcerting and the most clear for showing what happens when one walks the path of damnation. For no good can ever come of it, no matter the power or promises made by those fickle forces of darkness, the Chaos Guards. The dignity and nobility, courage and valour of the assault squads of Adeptus Astartes, Space Marines. Here is clearly illustrated the ultimate reward for being a worshipper of corruption. Being undone. For who amongst us would actively seek to become a mindless beast, a horrific hunter in the world of nightmares? Who of us would actually choose this path? To be robbed of dignity, of control, of creativity, of even the ability to speak, to basically utterly and totally lose their humanity and everything that makes them a distinct person. And this is actually seen as a thing to be sought after when one joins the Raptor cult. And who is the head of this Raptor cult? Some say it is the great god Khorne, for they revel in bloodshed, decapitation and slaughter. Some say it is Slaanesh, the Prince of Pain, as the Raptors and Talons do it for the pleasure gained at the pain they inflict. Both should fit. But is this the truth? Or is there something more? So many of the Raptor cult wear the colours of the Night Lords or a close hue, yet not all are in the Night Lords by any stretch of the imagination. So do the Raptor cult actually somehow exalt Conrad Kurz, the Primarch whose lead they most closely follow? Or is there yet another lesser chaos divinity that patronizes and empowers them? For make no mistake, there are as many entities in the warp that call themselves gods as there are stars in the universe. It is only the 4 that are usually discussed for certain, but never fool yourself that they would not be instantly replaced by equally horrific entities should someone somehow destroy one of them. But in the end, it does not really matter who they serve or why they do what they do, for actions are all that truly matter. In their actions, they show that they are one of the most damned groups of individuals the galaxy has ever witnessed, and in their wakes are left only butchery, pain, and carnage. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to the Raptors and warp Talons of the traitor Astartes. If so, then please do consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then hit the notifications button, as I would not want you to miss out. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.